Enjoying summer herbs is wonderful. I like to bring my summer herbs with me throughout the entire year with this amazing little trick. Join me as I'm going to be making herb salt from the garden to your kitchen, to gifts for others, or just a gift for yourself throughout the entire year. Let's make a DIY herb salt that you are going to love. My husband and I went away for a getaway to South Lake Tahoe, and we went to this really sweet hotel that had a morning breakfast. And part of their morning breakfast was an herb salt that we could put on our boiled eggs. I had never experienced such an exquisite taste as this herb salt. I put the herb salt on my little boiled eggs, and for the first time, a boiled egg made sense. So I was like, how can I buy this? I checked it out at the local store, and the salt was way overpriced. But I knew that with my garden, I would be able to make an herb salt that I could then enjoy for the rest of the year. So after years of prepping and testing, I have this amazing herb salt that I want to share with you today. Herbs are one of the easiest things to grow in a garden. So if you've never grown anything before, an herb is a great start. The herbs that I'm going to be cutting from today, some of them are perennials, and that just means that you can grow them all year. And some of them are annuals. They only grow for one season. And I have to give you a little tip. If you want to make this recipe and you don't have any herbs yet in your garden, that's okay. Go to the grocery store, grab some organic herbs that are in those little containers. The taste is not going to be as amazing as it is from a garden, but it's the first step of you creating herb salt. So don't be intimidated. You can grab herbs from your garden, or you can get some at the grocery store. So let's go ahead and get started with grabbing some herbs. I'm going to go ahead and start with oregano. And I'm using these really fun, cool scissors that when I cut, it actually cuts a whole bunch of it all at once. I'm just going to grab some oregano. The amazing thing is you're not going to need a whole bunch of herbs. Let's go ahead and grab some chives. These chives have been growing for about 3 years. And they just keep growing. Oh my goodness, the smell of fresh chives is just amazing. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these up a little bit. It's going to be a part of my mix. The last herb I'm going to grab is some basil. And with this, I'm just going to be plucking it off. When I harvest basil, I like to make sure that I leave right here this part of the basil so that there are always 2 leaves sprouting out, and it makes my basil bushier. So as I'm harvesting this amazing, beautiful basil, I'm leaving 2 leaves. I like to harvest my basil a lot because then it produces more amazing basil. We're back in the kitchen, and now we have the herbs that we went ahead and harvested. We've got basil, we have chives, and we have oregano. I just want to emphasize that you cannot go wrong. You can pick whatever combination of herbs that you have in your garden or that your taste buds love the most. Today, as I was smelling the basil and the chives, I just knew that this particular herb salt, I wanted it to be a wonderful combination of the basil and chives more than the oregano or anything else from my garden. So that's what I've decided to do. The crazy part is you don't need a ton of herbs for this recipe. You want more salt than herbs. So 1/4 of my recipe will be herbs, and 3/4 of my recipe will be salt. The salt will be a preservation of preserving these fresh herbs. Sometimes you can go ahead and use dry herbs, which I have a lot of tons of dry herbs from my garden. And the dried herbs is kind of nice because all of the liquid of the water is taken away. And so you know for sure that nothing will mold. But the wet herbs or the not dried herbs have a flavor that is just so amazing. And so I prefer this fresh method of preservation for my herbs because I'm going to be using so much salt. The salt is going to preserve the flavor and nothing's going to mold. I'm going to be able to use this herb salt for the next year and enjoy my garden every time I have a culinary experience in my kitchen. I have created a download free that you can get down below this YouTube video with 3 different types of herb salts. One is fresh, one is dried, and one is a different method that if you want to try it out, it's also fun. So you can grab this download that also explains what types of salts, what types of herbs, and the proportions of each thing so that the recipe actually comes out excellent. There are so many different types of salt that you can use, and salt is one of the healthiest things you can add to your diet. So let's take a look at some of the characteristics of different salts. Here I've got a sea salt, and sea salt is great because it's got mineral content. You can get this in a fine, this is a pure. You can also get a sea salt that's chunkier. This is a pink Himalayan salt, but what I wanted to show you was with how coarse it was. This salt is gorgeous, beautiful, has tons of minerals, but it was too big to be able to be a great salt to use for my herb recipe. And I did use it this last time, and I was reminded that even though it has great properties, I need to find smaller Himalayan salt. This salt is a sea salt, and this one is also coarse, but look, the difference is huge. It's a lot smaller, and this will work really well. I like to have my salt be a coarse salt, and I like to use a fine salt to grind up all of the herbs so that there is a combination of the two. When I combine a bigger coarse salt with a finer coarse salt, then my herbs get all the flavoring, all the preservation, and it's a really fun combination of salt to give to people and to enjoy throughout the year. So as I add the herbs, I know that I want 1/4 of my herbs to be the biggest impact. And I already told you, I love basil. I love the smell of green onions, one of my favorite things ever to experience. Now, if you take a look at the herbs that I harvested with you, I have already come up to almost capacity. I don't need many more herbs. I can use this for a salad or culinary things that I want to make later, maybe some spaghetti, a soup, any amazing things. I'm going to add just a couple more leaves, or I can make a second batch of this and then give it away as gifts, which I think that's what I'm going to do. Having Christmas presents in July ready will save me money and makes it a lot more fun. All right, so that's plenty of herbs. I'm gonna pour this in to my Cuisinart. I'm gonna add a whole cup of coarse salt. Let's see where we are here. And then I am gonna go ahead and add 2 cups of sea salt. 2. That is a really wonderful blend of a couple different salts that are going to add minerals. I'm going to go ahead and pour and this is the best part, watching everything blend. It's been over 48 hours and I have let this herb salt dry. And after it's all dried, like it is right here on a cookie sheet, I go ahead and find containers, like these cute mason jars, to store my herb salt. This will store for like a year or more, not even in a refrigerator. And this can be given as gifts. That's one reason why I love to find cute jars like this, so that I can give these away as gifts at Christmas time. It shouldn't feel wet. It should feel dry. And the salt is a great drying preservation piece of this whole recipe, and that's why it can help with keeping it lasting for a long time. So what I do is I go ahead and I get a canning funnel and I put it inside of the jar and I just pour it inside. Isn't that a beautiful green color? I like to try to get some of the chunks just so that it's easier for when I put it in a salt shaker, or if I ever do put it in a salt shaker. Sometimes I just keep it in these jars and I pinch it and use it in my meals. It smells so good. It doesn't smell as fragrant as it did 2 days ago, but it's still really amazing. So, oops, let's get this going. This really helps. It keeps the mess all out of the way. And what a cool gift. You can get this herb salt recipe down below. And remember to subscribe.